Rise and Elevate is dedicated to sharing the message of failures and successes, but those failures don't have to be negatives. They can be additives. They can be the lessons that we learn that help us to grow and become more.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Rise and Elevate. My name is Devin, and I am here with my wonderful co-host, Tom Fox. Every episode we get to chat with people who are doing big things and aren't afraid to share, the real inspiring stories behind it all. And today I'm extra excited. We have a really special guest who is joining us all the way from my hometown, Worcester, England. This really feels like a bit of a full circle. She is an absolute force. She's bold, brilliant, brings so much heart into everything she does. You are going to love her. But before we do that, Tom, can you tell everyone why we do what we do here at Rise and Elevate?
Well, first of all, good morning, Devin.
Good morning.
This is exciting for us because this is episode number 11.
Yes.
And what we decided a short while ago is that we wanted to try and share the stories, the successes and the failures, but more importantly, the lessons that they've learned from these experiences in life, and using one of our taglines, a rising tide lifts all ships. So with that, we want to share a message of hope and positivity and share those stories with our guests and with our audience. And I wanted to thank you, Devin, for being here with me today, and for being such an instrumental part in helping us to develop this. So without further ado, I would love for you to read the bio and introduce our first international guest.
Wonderful. So today's guest is dynamic, a deeply human leader whose career spans over 20 years across education, business ownership, leadership development, and true social impact. Beginning her professional life in education, rising quickly to becoming a head teacher, demonstrating early on her passion for developing others and creating environments where people could thrive. But a life-changing trip really opened up her eyes to cultural privilege, perspective, and really what we often take for granted in the West. That shift in worldview would really later influence, her bold and heart-led career moves. After maternity leave, Julia stepped back into business ownership by purchasing a local letting agency, despite having no background in property. Through strong leadership and, a focus on people, she transformed it into the area's top performing agency, eventually selling it to a national firm after several successful years. She then pivoted into property development, leading a 4-home build project just before the COVID-19 pandemic, proving once again her ability to adapt and lead through uncertainty. Julia now plays a key leadership role at Sterling Academy, a business development and leadership training platform, and co-founded a monthly networking group that intentionally bridges the worlds of education and business. Really a passion project that reflects her gift for uniting people from all different walks of life. And that's not it, guys. Julia also gives back in powerful ways. She sits on a foster care panel, helping to assess prospective adoptive and foster families, and is on the board of the Worcestershire Ambassadors, where they have raised over £1.25 million for local causes. She's about to set into her second term as chair, a huge testament to the trust she's built in her community. At the heart of everything she does, Julia is a mother, a mentor, and a mission-driven leader who believes in second chances, speaking truth, and lifting others as she climbs. We are thrilled to have her on our podcast, Rise and Elevate. Julia, welcome.
All I can say is, wow, you made me sound really good.
Good morning and welcome to our podcast, Julia.
Welcome. I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you.
So as Devin was pointing out, you wear many hats. And it's interesting, right? From being England, across the pond, this is our first kind of bridging that gap podcast. But what we do and how we share it is really not about where we are, but it's about our experiences and what you have to share. And as a mom of two boys, an educator, a developer, a motivational speaker, a fundraiser, a networker, one of the things that stood out to me was one of your taglines, being a disruptive mindset creator. Tell me what that means to you.
I don't play by the rules. I enjoy life. I go for it. If I see something and I want it, I think, why not? What is there to lose? So many people have a fear of stepping out into the unknown, and it's about just giving it a try, giving it a go and trying your best to do something and being disruptive. It's sometimes not always playing by the rules, ruffling a few feathers, asking a few questions, and just stepping out of your comfort zone, really.
I love that. I try to live my life by work hard and play harder, right? So there's many things that I've done that people have questioned through the years. And I love the fact that I don't worry so much about what everyone else thinks. But what I do worry about is trying to make a positive impact, right? And it seems like you've made a positive impact in so many different directions. Yeah. And you should be proud of it.
Oh, thank you.
And as we talked about previously, right, we like to focus on successes and failures, but not really those per se, but more the benefit, the lesson that you've taken away from those things. And one of the things that you say is a success for you, right, is raising two boys, which is not easy in any circumstance. I have boy-girl twins, so I know children can be wonderful, exciting, and also very challenging, right? How old are your boys now?
I've got a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old, and they are active. They're noisy, but they are incredibly active. And dare I say, they take after their mama. They take after me.
That's wonderful.
They have a lot to say. They're very sociable, but they are a dream to be around. That's all I can say. They keep me on my toes.
You shared with us earlier when it came to your boys, what did they say? They say that you are strict but fair. Yeah. Can you explain a little bit more about that and what that means?
Growing up, my parents were always really strict with me, which is a good thing, but a little bit too strict. And obviously, because I come from an educational background, I think it's really important to have discipline. It's important to have manners. And as long as they stick between those two things, we're fine, And if I say something, I say it for a reason. And I always expect them to respect me, but I always expect a conversation. So that's when I say I'm firm, but fair, but I'm also fun.
That's great. The kids, as they grow up, they mimic so much of what they see. Not always our words, but how we act, what we do. And it sounds like you're really showing them a lot of positive attributes, right? As part of what we talked about, I'd like to pick on one of the failures, right, that you talked about. And one of the things that you said is relationships, right? And not so much that failure, but what your kind of current mode of thinking is on how do you get deeper to create more meaningful relationships.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's so important. I can't say that my relationships have been my finest moment, but, I've learned so much. I think for me, when it came to relationships, my parents have been together for a long time, over 50 years. And I probably tried to recreate that in some way, but everybody is different. And for me, I think it's for listening to the other person and allowing each other to grow. That's the most important thing for me. And I think relationships, I would say I've had some failures, but I've learned so much. And it's trusting in myself and not worrying about others. That's the most important thing for me, is not worrying about what others think, but having mutual respect. And communication is a huge thing for that. And that's one of the things that I'd say with my children, is that I want them to go into relationships with a healthy mindset. You know, there are two individuals, and two individuals can make a whole, but you must never lose yourself.
And it takes two to tango. And that same mindset carries over into the business world, into your educational and training. And how do you disrupt the mindset, or sometimes what we call pattern interrupt, of the people that you're training to go next level in business?
I ask them lots and lots of questions. And I think that's the most important thing. These days, we don't ask enough questions, and we certainly don't listen. Listening for me is the most important thing that you can do, but not being afraid. You know, very often, particularly when I had my letting agency business, it was new to me, but it was also a brilliant thing because I didn't follow the norm, and I didn't follow the pattern. I wasn't afraid to try something new. And I think when I'm training and leading people, it's try something new. If it doesn't work, it's not a failure. It's just, what did you learn from that? What else could you do? And what's the positives that you can take out of that? That's the most important thing. And just enjoying what you're doing is, for me, the most fundamental things. If you're not enjoying it, why are we doing it?
It's funny, my boss, you know, I've been in a new role now for just about over a month, and he's like, Devin, the most important thing is to have fun. It's really not that serious. Like, if you're not having fun, you're not going to come across in a way that is genuine to who you are as an individual. So I absolutely agree with you there, Julia. And I'd like to dive into what you mentioned was the letting agency. How on earth did we go from head teacher to, you know what, I'm going to run and operate a letting agency?
I think I lost my mind.
The best people do.
A long story. So look, my parents and I've had properties and I've let them out. Right? So I just assumed, silly as it was, it couldn't be that hard. Okay. And on maternity leave, I fully intended to take some time, but it came up for sale. And I thought, well, why not? What's the worst that can happen? I know how to lead a team. Mm-hmm. I understand a little bit about property. There were structures in place. So I thought, go for it. Walked in there my first day, high heels, of course.
Yes.
It could go according to the plan. Okay. But the one thing that helped me is that I am a great listener to my team. And I spoke to them individually. I learned about what worked well, what didn't work well. I spoke to the landlords, and bit by bit, we changed things. We didn't do it overnight. And trust me, I made enough boo-boos to last me a lifetime. But I survived. And, you know, going back to what we said before, because I wasn't in that industry, it was a lot easier for me to try new things when it came to marketing. And the reason we were successful is because we bucked the trend. We did things differently, you know,
right.
That was mindset.
Spoke earlier about your trip to Africa, to Zambia. So tell me what you did and what your eyes were open to by doing that.
My trip to Africa actually was a very pivotal moment for me because I'd actually come out of a very long-term relationship and I was climbing up the ladder to be a head teacher and I had an opportunity to go. And I thought, well, why not? And when I arrived there, it really made me value what we have over in the West and that we take for granted. Everybody over there was smiling. They didn't have much. They worked hard. They really valued education. They managed to keep their school uniform clean, which to me was unbelievable.
Right.
But, you know, it was an amazing experience. And I left that place feeling very humbled very proud, but it also gave me the incentive to really come back and really go for it, because we moan about so many things in the West. We have no idea. We have no idea how lucky we are. And I'm encouraging my boys to go over there, and I'm going to plan a trip to take them over there so that they can actually see firsthand what it's like. Yeah. I can always remember when I worked out there, I didn't just work in the local schools. I went into the villages, helped with the doctors and that sort of thing. And there was one particular villager that gave me a treasure. Now, to me, it was nothing, but for them, it was amazing. And it was one little chewit sweet, a tiny little chewit sweet. Oh. It was dirty and battered, but for them, that was like the creme de la creme. Right. And I can remember just thinking to myself, wow, to us, we eat sweets all the time, but to them, it was such a big thing. And I remember also having a digital camera. They'd never seen a digital camera before. They'd never seen themselves before on camera. Right. It was a truly inspiring, motivating. It was just fantastic to go there. Really brilliant.
Have you been able to instill any of those lessons that you learned on that trip within your boys and even within your business?
Most definitely. And I think the biggest lesson for me is appreciate what you have. No matter how bad it is, there is somebody always worse off than you, and appreciate just the good things in life. Don't focus on the bad things. Don't focus on what's gone wrong. Focus on what's going right. And when things are not going quite right, think to yourself, what can I learn from this? What can I change with myself and the situation? And just go for it. Don't dwell on negative things. Focus on the positives and what you can change and how you can make a difference. And for me, I went out there and I was helping the villagers. I make my boys do volunteering. They hated it at first. They've been outside the supermarkets with the cash. They've helped out at fun runs. They've gone and helped in care homes. Yeah, it's so important. It's critical, really.
It's a matter of perspective sometimes. And we get to choose that perspective. We get to choose our attitude, right? We can't always control what's happened to us. And certainly you've been through some challenges, but you took away that message and feeling of gratitude. And I think that's something that I try to lead my life with, right? Being thankful for what we all do have. And as part of our message here with the podcast is that positivity and that message of hope. If you work hard towards your goals and dreams and passions, you can accomplish just about anything. And that's something that I try to instill in my children. And that's something obviously you shared with your boys. In terms of your business career, what's something that if you wanted to share a really strong, passionate position, what would you say to our audience that drives you?
I surround myself with people that motivate me and make me a better person. I'm a strong believer you are who you mix with. And so with the people that I work with my family and the boys, the most important thing is surround yourself with good people. If you surround yourself with good people, everything will fall into place because you'll be motivated to achieve goals. You're all striving for the same thing. And, life is a much better place. And that's the key thing that I would say. And develop yourself. Have a growth mindset. Keep learning. That's the most important thing. Never stop learning and developing yourself and others. Give something back.
Julia, speaking of development, I know that Tom wanted to cover something because you both have something that's very similar when it comes to, you did a 4-home build. And Tom, I'll let you share your side.
So, Julia, I also have gotten into property development, home flips, and the real estate side. Being in the mortgage world, I'm constantly in contact with realtors and I see opportunities. And when my kids were about ready to get into school, I decided that I was going to use property flips as a way to help fund education. So I paid for 2 kids to go through college, twins at the same time, by property flips and investing and trying to improve the quality of someone's home, rehab it, put it back on the market. But recently we've acquired 3 properties that we're now developing. And I'd like to hear your story about the 4-home property development that you did.
Well, let me tell you, it's a bit like the letting agency. I thought it was a really good idea. And I had a very neat plan, a timeline that I thought everyone was going to follow. And I quickly realized that actually no one was following my timeline at all. But communication is key. Communication and listening and being nice to people rather than losing your rag, which you can very easily do when you've got a project like that. And I realized it's actually quite costly to do. For me, when I was doing the properties, I had big plans. And luckily for me, with COVID hit and I was managed to sell them off plan before COVID. But I think if I was to do this again, I would plan it a lot more carefully than I did. That's what I would say to do with that.
Yeah. Well, contractors are certainly difficult to manage at times, but I agree with you that you get far more with honey than you do with vinegar. And helping them to recognize your goal, communicating effectively with them really makes a difference, right? So you've done some great things. And I share a fundraising background as well. But I want to hear about how you've raised over 1.25 million pounds towards good causes.
This is something I'm so passionate about because it's my core, as in helping others. And through Worcestershire Ambassadors really promotes Worcestershire, the area. That's the fundamental thing, inside Worcestershire and outside Worcestershire. But we put on events, like we put on corporate balls where, we might raise £60,000 a time. We do golf events, but also we've just done something called street cricket. So we get a lot of businesses together where we attempt to play cricket in the streets. I wouldn't actually say I actually hit a ball, but we put on a lot of events, but also we help other charities to promote them and just give something back, which can be our time as well. 1.25 million pounds is an incredible amount of money, and it wasn't easy, but it's just the whole community getting together and striving for the same thing and making sure that that money is well spent as well. Yeah.
I would like to add that I did a little bit of LinkedIn viewing on your profile. And aren't you jumping out of an airplane also for charity coming up? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, thank you for reminding me about that. This is one of those moments that somebody asked me to do something. I'm like, yeah, no problem. And yeah, it's coming up thick and fast. And I'm scared. I am. And I keep looking up at the sky thinking, right, I wonder how high this plane is going to go. But I am going to be jumping out of a plane. Yes. But you know what? I'm excited. It's for a great cause. Have I done any preparation for it? No, not at all.
Well, I too have jumped out of a perfectly good airplane and did some skydiving. So as an adrenaline seeker, adventurous, I loved the experience. And what I'll say to you is, again, it's all about perspective, right? That fear that you may have, you get to choose how you process that adrenaline rush. And those same sensations of sweaty palms and elevated heart rate is the same if you think of it as excitement and adventure, or if you think of it as fear that can be paralyzing. And I think that's one of the messages that you're showing your community, your family, and the people that are around you, that you're not going to be using your self-limiting beliefs as fear to stop you from helping others. And I think that's powerful. And I love that about your story. because everything you've shared with us so far builds in helping other people grow. And that's an educational background, right? You want to teach, you want to share. And this is the platform that we've chosen to share those messages of positivity. So I think some of the things that you're doing hit a core with Devin and I. And as we talk about our next guest and the other people that we're bringing in, we like to try and find people that share those messages. And I think you've got a powerful story, and we appreciate you sharing those things with us. Devin, you had something that you had a connection with Julia that might bring up some other tidbits we can share with the audience.
So I can see Julia already going, oh my God. So our connection is through my family in England. That's where I'm originally from. Julia and Tom both know this. But Julia, a lot of when I get on calls with, Americans over here, and they're like, why are you putting on a fake British accent? I'm like, no, I swear, I used to speak the Queen's English, as my mother said, and now I have this wonderful accent. But yeah, we had a connection through my British family over there, which I go visit maybe like once, twice a year. I'll be there in October, Julia, so we'll have to grab a drink or something. But no, I did not call Dad to share any stories, so don't worry. Julie's like, whew. So I just, I went to LinkedIn and saw that you're doing the jumping out of a plane. But another thing that I do want to touch on, because I couldn't find much information on it, but I saw some pictures. Talk to us about Strictly Come Dancing in Worcester. Were you like on a show? Was it Worcester show?
Yeah, so basically, I love the show, absolutely love it. And in Worcestershire, they decided to put on an event themselves. So it was local business people got together and they had to learn 2 dances, and there were judges on the show. So I love dancing. So I thought, yeah, that's me. Entered it, didn't win, gutted. Entered it again, didn't win. So I thought, I can't enter it a 3rd time. So you know what? I'm going to take over the show. And that's exactly what I did. So I became the executive producer and actually organised it after that for the next 5 years. Each show raised about £30,000 for local charities, but I absolutely loved it. Some of the judges, though, took their job a little bit too seriously. Some of them were very harsh. Some of the dancers, some of them were a little bit diva-ish, but, just like a real show. But out of it, we had weddings, we had babies, and we had a lot of fun. So, yeah, it was brilliant. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's pretty cool that your failure to win as a dancer generated a success as being the director. Definitely. And that's the takeaway, right? What can we learn? How did you grow? You grew and said, hey, this might not be my forte, but you love the dance. So you enjoyed doing it and you raised some money. But you also then acquired a director's position, which I think is, it's incredible to not be afraid, right? And one of the things that you shared with us is travel. And I've always been a big fan of travel. I love to go anywhere I can, wherever I can. And you had said that you were limited with that when you were younger. And how has that evolved?
I played it too safe when I was younger. If I just wish I was the person that I am now when I was younger, I just played it too safe. I went to uni, went into work. If I had my time again, I would travel, see the world, have fun, learn about culture, all of that. And, I have traveled, since I've got old. But I just wish that I had motivated myself, or I was encouraged more just to see the world and not worry so much about being tied down into a role, and fit in the norm, but to see the world. Yeah, definitely. Because you can learn so much.
I think that's going to be the takeaway for me to share with my children more. Because they've traveled a little bit across the U.S. and a little bit in the Caribbean and Mexico, but not outside the U.S. And I think I'm going to encourage my children to travel more as a result of our podcast today.
Definitely. I mean, I am constantly saying to my boys, when are you going? When are you going to travel? In fact, my oldest son has just come back from South Africa. He's been there for 3.5 weeks on a rugby tour. But while he was out there, he coached. He went into schools. He went to the safari. He did loads of things, and I think it's amazing, to have that experience at that age. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Julia, as we come into a close here, there's one thing that I've noticed throughout this entire episode with you, and it's when you just say, why not? Why not do it? Did you always have that mindset, or was it something that came with time?
I've always been like that, but I think as I've got older, I've become more comfortable in my own body, spirit, mindset, and that's developed along the way. And I think when you are comfortable within yourself and you are generally positive, that's kind of your aura. It's just there, isn't it? And I love to take myself out of my comfort zone, because life is for living. We're not promised tomorrow. And so I want to make the most of every single hour, every single minute, every single day, and just enjoy life. And if there's an opportunity, I'm going to take it for sure.
This has been so much fun. Like, my cheeks are hurting from laughing. Julia, thank you so much for joining Tom and I today on our podcast. We really appreciate it.
Julia, your message is inspirational. We really appreciate your time and your energy. And why not?
And do you know what? I'm really thankful for both of you for inviting me on your podcast, because both of you you align with how I feel. And it's so good that you're doing something so positive by sharing positivity, in a growth mindset across the pond. So thank you.
Thanks for listening to Rise and Elevate, the podcast where we talk mindset, moves, and motivation to level up your life and business. Keep rising, keep elevating.